Hello class, welcome to Pre-Algebra Lesson 12.1, which is all about circumference of circles. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the circumference of circles given the radius or diameter, and you should be able to find the radius or diameter given circumference. Just a quick note, this video is going to actually cover two sections. It's covering circumference of circles first, and then later in the video, I'm going to cover area of circles. Okay, so let's start with circumference of circles. So first of all, we have a picture of a circle, and just a reminder that a radius is something that comes from the center of the circle and goes out to the edge of the circle. Okay, so it goes like halfway across the circle. The diameter is something that goes all the way across the circle and through the center. Okay, so it's not a diameter unless it goes through the center. Okay, and then one other quick note is that a radius is half of a diameter, or a diameter is twice as long as a radius, okay? So let's move on to the circumference formula. Depending on if you have the diameter or radius, it looks a little different. So we can either solve for the circumference by saying pi times the diameter, or we can say pi times twice the radius, or 2 times r, okay? And that's because the radius, you need 2 radii, that's plural for radius, in order to be the same length as the diameter. So it's either pi times diameter or 2 pi r. So let's start by solving by finding the circumference given the diameter. Here we have a picture of Big Ben, which is a famous clock tower in London, England. The diameter of the clock face is 23 feet. We want to find the circumference of the clock face. We're going to use 3.14 for pi. Okay, so remember, circumference is just pi times diameter. So in this case, we're using 3.14, and then we're going to say times our diameter, which is 23. So I say 3.14 times 23, and I get 72.22. So 72.22 feet. And circumference, which I'm realizing I forgot to say exactly what circumference is on the last slide, so let me clarify what circumference is. It's the distance around the outside of the circle. Okay, so in the past you've found perimeter of shapes. So circumference is basically it's the perimeter of a circle. Okay, it's the distance around the edge of a circle. Okay, so now I want you to find the circumference of this circle. We have the Niagara Skywheel, which overlooks Niagara Falls, Canada, has a diameter of 50.5 meters. Find the circumference of the Niagara Skywheel. Use 3.14 for pi and round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. Good luck. All right, hopefully you found that the circumference is 158.57 meters, okay? And I did that by saying 3.14 times 50.5. If you have questions about that, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on to finding the circumference if we know the radius. So let's quickly refresh. 2 pi r is how we find the circumference with a radius. So find the circumference of a circle with a radius of 21.2 inches. Use 3.14 for pi, round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. So I'm going to say 2 times 3.14 times my radius of 21.2. Okay, so 2 times 3.14 times 21.2, I get 133.136. My directions say to round to the nearest hundredth, which means 2 decimal places. So I'm going to say 133 point, and then I have a 1, and then this 3 is going to change because the number to the right of it is a 6. So it becomes 133.14 inches. And that is my final answer. I want you guys to make sure you're paying attention to labels. I want you to practice labeling your answers. Okay, so now it's your turn. I want you to find the circumference given the radius of 0.9 centimeter. Use 3.14 for pi and write your answer as a decimal rounded to the nearest hundredth. Good luck. All right, hopefully you said 2 times 3.14 times 0.9, and you got 5.652, which rounds to 5.65 centimeters. If you have any questions about that, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on. So now we're going to practice finding the diameter given the circumference. Okay, so let's remember circumference equals pi times diameter. And now we have one of the world's largest water fountains in the world. Singapore's Fountain of Wealth consists of a circular bronze ring that has a circumference of 66 meters. Find the approximate diameter of the fountain's bronze ring, use 3.14 for pi, and round to the nearest hundredth. So I would say 66 equals 3.14 times the diameter. So then what I'm going to do in order to get diameter by itself, I undo that multiplication with division on both sides. So then I say 66 divided by 3.14. 66 divided by 3.14 gives me 21.019102828. And then it would keep going. But we want to round to the nearest hundredth, so that's 2 decimal places. So I say 21.0, and then this 1 is going to change because 9 is going to bump it up to a 2. So I'd say 21.02 meters is the diameter. Okay, so when you're finding diameter, you're going to end up dividing instead of multiplying. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and find the approximate diameter of the table? The circumference is 141.3 inches. Good luck. All right, for this answer, hopefully you ended up with an answer of 45 inches. So be sure to divide both sides by 3.14, and then this one worked out to a nice whole number. If you have questions about that, please be sure to ask for some help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on. Now we're going to find the radius given the circumference. So remember, circumference equals 2 times pi times the radius. So if we have a circumference of 70.82, I would say equals 2 times 3.14 times the radius. So I have 70.82. And then if I do 2 times 3.14, I get 6.28 times the radius. And now it looks similar to the last problem where I just need to divide by the number in front of my variable. So if I do 70.82 divided by 6.28, I'm left with 11.277 equals the radius, and I want to round to the nearest hundredth. So I would say the radius equals 11.2, and then that 7 is going to make this 7 bump up to an 8. So my answer is 11.28 inches. Okay, now I want you to try one on your own. We have a radius of a circle with a circumference of 25 yards. Go ahead and solve this one on your own. Good luck. Okay, for this problem, hopefully you said 25 equals 2 times 3.14 times r, and then you multiplied and combined that 2 times 3.14 and got 6.28. And then you said 25 divided by 6.28 gives you 3.98089. But if you round to the nearest hundredth, that's 3.98 yards. If you have questions about that, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on. Now we're on to lesson 12.2, which is area of circles. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the area of circles given the radius or the diameter and using the formula for the area of a circle. So let's quickly refresh. Here we have our circle. Here's our radius. Our area is pi times the radius squared. Okay, so pi times the radius squared. So if we find the area of the circle, use 3.14 for pi, round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. We have a radius of 14.2 inches. So I say area equals pi times radius squared. So I'm going to say A equals 3.14 times 14.2 squared. Now when you're typing this into a calculator, make sure you do this first, 14.2 squared, okay? If you do 3.14 times 14.2 and then square that, you're going to get the wrong answer because order of operations say exponents before multiplication. So if I do 14.2 squared, I get 201.64, and I'm going to say times 3.14, and I get 633.1496, and if I want to round to the nearest hundredth, I would say 633.15, because this 9 will bump that 4 up. And I'm going to label my answer inches, but this time, since we're talking area, we say inches squared. Okay? If you have questions about that, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you, but I want you to try this problem on your own. Good luck. All right, for this problem, hopefully you set it up like this. You said 3.14 times 18.75 squared. Then hopefully you did 18.75 squared and then multiplied by 3.14. If you did it in that order, you should have gotten 1,103.906. And then that 6 would bump that 0 up to a 1, so we could round to the nearest hundredth. If you have questions about that, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on. We have example 6, find the area given the diameter. We have the city of Wellington is commissioning a statue to honor their former mayor. The circular base of the statue will be 26 feet in diameter. What is the area of the space needed to fit the base of the statue? Use 3.14 for pi and round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. Okay, so when you are given the diameter and you're trying to find the area, what you're actually going to do is, before you solve for area, you're going to say the diameter, you're going to cut it in half to get the radius. So the radius equals the diameter divided by 2. So our radius equals 26 divided by 2, which is 13. Now I get to move on to the formula. Area equals pi, or 3.14, times my radius squared. So I'm going to say 13 squared, which is 169, times 3.14 gives me 530.66, and it ends right there. So then I'd say feet squared. That's how much area they need on the ground for this statue. Okay, so hopefully it's really similar for you. You see the pattern between this example and the last one, where you're just finding the area. It just has one step in front of it where you cut the diameter in half before you find the area. So why don't you go ahead and practice that on this problem. We have, what is the area of one side of a quarter? Use 3.14 for pi, round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. So we have a diameter of 24.26 millimeters. Good luck. Okay, for this problem, hopefully you ended up with 462.01 millimeters squared. The way I got that was I cut my diameter in half to get 12.13. Then I did 12.13 squared times 3.14. And I got 462.009. So that 9 bumped my second 0 up to a 1 when I rounded to the nearest hundredth. If you have questions about that, please be sure to reach out for some help. I'm happy to help you. Let's move on to our last example for today. We want to find the area of a semicircle. So semicircle is really just half of a circle. So you start by finding the area of the circle, and then you just do one last step of cutting it in half. Okay, so we have a wireless fence transmitter at the back door of a house allows a dog to roam freely within a semicircle that has a radius of 30 feet. What is the area of the space the dog has to roam? Use 3.14 for pi, round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. So let's start by finding the area of a circle with a radius of 3 feet. So we say pi times our radius squared. So if we say 30 squared, I get 900 times 3.14, I get 2,826, and that is feet squared. But since we're dealing with a semicircle, I divide that answer by 2, and I get 1,413 feet squared. And that would be my final answer. I divide by 2 in order to get my semicircle. So hopefully that doesn't seem too bad. It's just, tacking on one step at the end. Okay, now why don't you try to find the area of this semicircle? Use 3.14 for pi, write your estimate as a decimal rounded to the nearest hundredth. Good luck. All right, hopefully you said that the area of the circle was 176.625, which cut it in half, you're left with 88.31 yards squared. Okay, so if you have any questions about that problem or anything else from this video, please be sure to reach out for some help. I am happy to help you. I hope you have a great day.